welcome to Turn 4 of the Gary Grigsby's War in the East to Soviets campaign. And it was another brutal one. We lost 300,000, or almost 300,000 guys. So while not quite as much as last turn, it was still pretty bad. Now, again, some of that's going to just be from units that surrendered from the pocket. The Minsk pocket was cleared up, but it also has to do with these breakthroughs, and the Germans are putting a lot of effort into pushing through our lines, and they are getting somewhere. So it is hard mode indeed. Let's see what we have on our events. The Axis finish offensive begins, so we may have to put more troops into the northern sector. I hope we don't. The Axis are really doing badly in North Africa, so that's amazing. Partisans have become active, and this is a little history about them, but basically when the Axis roll in and have bunches of death squads that kill people and loot the land and stuff like that, it turns out people don't like it very much, so they go about ripping up trade tracks or shooting German soldiers in an insurgency or guerrilla warfare. And in World War II, it's called partisan warfare, and I believe in this game what it results in is us randomly taking unsecured enemy hexes behind the lines and causing supply disruption that way. I think. And then another one of the mutual assistance that we're going to get under the Anglo-Soviet agreement. Basically, we're going to get tanks and equipment from Britain and later America, because they can be, while Britain and America would not be in a main front against Germany until they invaded Italy, and then after that D-Day, some of that equipment is going to be better used on our front, and thank God for that, because we need it. So another brutal turn here. The Minsk pocket got cleared up, as did most of the units on the border. Now that's to be expected, and it's probably where a lot of our casualties have come from. So fortunately, we should have lower casualty turns in the future. That's probably the last of the units from Barbarossa, but the enemy did do offenses in multiple sectors, and some of them are quite alarming. So the first one is this Pskov sector was completely blown open. The German tanks drove all the way in here, nearly to Novgorod. We're going to have to really scramble to cover this. This line is now useless. The Narva line is basically undermined, and we may have to pull units from it. Leningrad is in big trouble. I don't know if the reinforcements will get there fast enough, and we're going to have to bring some in by train that hopefully won't get overrun. Some of these units absolutely just got routed because they were still on trains when the Germans got to them and attacked them on trains. Some of them are going to be able to come off the trains and stop the Germans from expanding their lead near Lake Ilmen, but this is terrible for us. Predictable, but terrible. And we're going to have to really try really hard to not get Leningrad surrounded. They did it even with the rain, so that's terrible. They continue to march slowly into Estonia, which is kind of funny that they've done this, but they haven't taken Estonia, which is the correct move. Then in the slightly south of that, in north of Poltavsk, they've broken through our line here. It did take them a little more effort, it looks like. So this was a weak sector. We kind of expected this, and we can kind of keep defending some of the line. So that's not too terrible. We'll have to just pull back, really plan on defending right near Velhiluki. I really hope that I'm not butchering that too badly. In Smolensk, they did another very large push to try to push across the Smolensk land bridge, routing multiple units, making other units retreat, really pushing in there. It was rough for us, and they're going to keep doing this kind of thing. So we're going to have to pull some of these units out, reorganize some of these units, and keep defending near Smolensk. This land bridge may not be defensible, but if we defend along the rivers and then defend in Smolensk and in these hexes near it, we might be able to stop them or at least force a fight in a city where we have a lot of combat power that actually, like if you look, they've got like 39, 16, 3, 6, 4, whatever, and we've got 10. So this is probably our highest combat power hex that we own right now. South, they pushed us off this little river so that we'll have to actually defend near the Dnieper, but that's fine. We were preparing for that. We'll just have to pull those guys back. They also pushed us even further south and even pushed us out of a hex on the Dnieper, but they weren't able to get anything in there, so I'm going to put something else in there to defend it. They nearly pocketed some of these units, but I think we're going to be able to filter them out of here. Just slowly, and we'll keep on getting beat up, but I think we'll be able to do that, and I think we'll be able to arrest this advance in the Pripyat. At the very least, like, them moving through this terrain is just going to slow them down. Jesus. Look at this. This is our air recon hexes, and their air freight that's been dropped in. Did we hold here? Interesting. They scouted us but didn't do a real attack. Further south in the Pripyat, they made a few minor attacks. It doesn't matter. We're just going to have to reform that line. And then in the south, SouthWestern Front, they made major attacks. We actually held here, it looks like. But further north, we did not. We were just pushed back along the entire course of the front. We've had those machine gun artillery battalions surrendering, which is not unexpected. That's whatever. But they've pushed us into Podoludia proper now, and we're going to have to just keep making defenses in this open, bad terrain, and they're going to be able to keep pushing them. We could try to scramble back further and just set up along the river lines, but I think that making them fight for it and not undermining our more northerly units is probably going to be good. We may end up having to abandon this sector, but I don't want to. We're probably going to have to abandon these well-defended hexes, unfortunately, and pull back from here and that kind of thing. We have some pretty good units up in here, so they may shift south, and that may help us out. And then lastly, in the south, they also very predictably did get across the Dniester River, and they did push across it in multiple points. Our delaying worked a little bit for us because they didn't really make a whole lot of progress here, and they even one of our retreated units actually held on. So we will have to retreat. We may set up a little bit of a preliminary defense near Odessa, just so they have to push through it and to it, but that'll depend on troop availability. They really shoved us off this line. We'll go to the next line. That's okay. That's kind of expected, but overall, it really puts the point that even if on the second turn things did go pretty well for us, the Germans are absolutely in good shape. They are absolutely still continuing Operation Barbarossa, and we have one sector that's seriously in crisis, and most of our sectors are not looking great, regardless. So we have our work cut out for us. So the air phase. The Baltic Fleet Command, let's get that shit out of here, needs to retreat. It should be retreating further. That's flex. That's fine. That's flex. That's not great, but I think I can... I think keeping these guys on flex now is all going to be okay. We'll see if they put anybody in really ignorant air bases. I may get this recon group, like, to retreat out of there. I'm going to go in and get some of these, maybe perhaps, like, badly placed air commands to get out of there so that they won't get overrun and we won't lose a lot of planes that way, but I think most of these are fine, so we're going to execute that. Only real pocket we have left is in the Baltic, so I'll go through that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get this last of our units out of that Courland pocket. That is great that we got all those guys out. Wonderful. Some of these units that were on ships, I think I am going to see how much they can actually move when they're not on ships. Yeah, they can get back. So we're just going to march them, pull them off the boats, and march them back slowly. I think they'll get there before they get cut off by the Germans, but if they don't, then we can put them back on boats and bring them directly to Leningrad. Yarama and the Sarame, the islands. Anyway, the islands are going to stay fortifying with their security brigades. We'll see how that works out for us. If it looks like it's going to go poorly, we'll pull all our guys back and just fortify or just pull them out of the port. I think this is inaccessible from the mainland, so I'm just going to put him on the ferry hex and start bringing him in to fortify behind this river or to fortify the ferry hex. Anyway, that's that. Very quick. Next front is the Southern Front, and we've got some work to do. Odessa, I'm just going to keep the same unit here, continuing to fortify. I'm going to pull back to these river lines in Transnistria and maybe kind of do a little horizontal like line up here. Might continue to defend these mountains, but our Dniester line is well and truly pushed. We only have 2 hexes worth of Dniester left, so we'll do that and we'll see how that ends up looking. Not a great look. This is oogly, however you want to put it. We've put our strong division in front of Odessa. Hopefully the Germans don't just break the fuck through and ruin our defensive lines. Here we've got some frontline refits. We've got people moving back to this line. Our Nikolaev line is not good yet. We don't have troops on the Yezny Bug, so this is not a great situation. This may be a mistake. Maybe I should just move back to the river lines, but I feel like giving Odessa just like one more turn to fortify and just this level 3 fort and just making them push us to these river lines, I think is the correct play. We did have to leave these mountains. I don't think they're defensible. I do want to shorten my line in this direction. Hopefully I can pull some of these southwestern troops out, but I do want the Southern Front to be covering the flank of the Southwestern Front somewhat. I don't want them to push through this weak area and then get in the back and loot all our Southwestern Front guys. Speaking of the Southwestern Front, what we're going to have to end up doing is pulling as many of these guys out of this forming pocket as possible. I think disbanding this is not really cheese. Again, it's been a long while, and we could reasonably get this out if it was a mobile unit. We are going to have to be careful about where we kind of put some of these units. We have our strong mountain divisions on these hills, which is fine, but we have a lot of weak and unready units, and we're going to have to make a line through basically open ground with whatever units we can. We also have a army that we put on a train down from Moscow from Stavka, so we could actually do some command reworking here. I think the front is static enough that that's fine. Then up here, we're going to have to really choose where we just retreat from, and probably this bump here, we don't want to get it surrounded from the north or the south. We're going to probably retreat from that and set up a line in the rough terrain of the Pripyat. We do need more reinforcements here in order to do that. I also think that some of these Western Front units are going to just be reassigned to Southwest and to make that command structure a little bit better. Generally, the goal here is to not get pocketed, first of all. That's always our first goal, I think, in this stage of the campaign. Don't get pocketed, and then make a defensive line that the Germans are at least going to have a little bit of trouble with. It may not be possible in the center. We've got a lot of beat-ass units, and it's open ground, so odds are against us, but we're fairly strong on our flanks, so we may just have to feed units from the flank into the center, and then that'll be that. But yeah. So I've done about the best I could with this Southwestern Front situation. I've got it. Nothing's going to be pocketed. I have mountain units guarding the mountain line. The rest of my line is pretty sketchy, and I've got refitted units, just really destroyed tank units that I've had to pull back from the front. Hopefully, we did enough damage from the Germans that repeated turns of combat will wear them down, but we'll see. We also had to, run away from the Rovno area, basically. Some of these smaller towns we might set up a stand-in. Fortunately, we do have a part of a line, the beginnings of a line near the Pripyat, that we do have a gap that the Western Front will have to cover, which is not really something I like to say. So the Southwestern Front is reasonably sorted out. On to the Western Front and its associated nonsense. I don't know why the Western Air Command is hanging out here. Okay. But the enemy ground, they are very much trying to pocket these guys, so we're going to get these guys out. We're going to reoccupy this tile, even if they keep pushing us off of it. We're going to retreat from what's left of this line and actually take our Dnieper line seriously, and we're just going to try to stop them from getting over to like Gomel and Smolensk. And then in the north, very north fringes, we'll do some work on the Smolensk land bridge from this direction, but the northwestern, I think the southern end of it's going to be our responsibility, and the northern end of it's going to be the northwesterns. I probably shouldn't have panned here, but just there are our reserves that we've been bringing over from that screen are finally starting to show up in force, so distributing them will be quite a task, and I'll do that later on. But for now, we're just going to be getting out of the pocket and trying to reinforce our lines and trying to really just make a hold on along the Dnieper River and south of Smolensk and at Smolensk. So that's what this Western Front is going to do. Right, so that's done with. We still have this gap, which is not great, but unless they end up pushing all the way through the swamps to encircle this bulge, I think it's fine. We'll end up pulling these guys out as best we can, like I said, and setting up some defenses in here. I think we're going to actually be able to defend within the Pripyat or somewhere in its area, so that's all good. Our Dnieper line is not amazing, but it's what we've got. We do have some strong units. I am keeping a strong unit on Mogilov. That is a clear hex without, or it might be a city hex. Okay, yeah, that's a city hex, so they may have some trouble taking it, but it is a rail hub, and I feel like it'd be useful as a bridgehead. I doubt we'll keep it, but it'll keep our defensive line going for longer. I haven't fixed this yet. I'm going to treat the Smolensk land bridge as its own thing, and I'm just going to set up a line in here before I get to the Northwestern Front, which is mostly going to pull back and try to unfuck itself, basically. Southern end of that is taken care of rather badly, but we'll have to see what this we can do with the Northwestern Front. At this point, this area is in danger of becoming a pocket, so even though it still has excellent defensive terrain and hasn't been pushed, we're probably going to have to pull back to these ridges and hills just to shorten the line and give ourselves space. This front is pretty sad at this point. We may end up doing a general recommand or a command restructuring, shifting everything to the south, take some pressure off the Southwestern Front, which is way over its unit cap. But for now, we're just going to pull back to this line and try as best we can to guard the Smolensk flanks and to reinforce these guys. When we get to the Leningrad Front, that's where we're going to have serious problems. And I think I'm going to make it so all this stuff is in the Northwestern Front, and then only things above where the German breakthrough is in the Leningrad Front. Yes. That was weird. All right, I have got the Northwestern Front into shape, kind of. It's still a very weak front. It's got refitting units on the front line, wherever they are. Maybe not that many. But it's got refitting units on the front line, and it is, other than the rough terrain, it's not having a great one. Hopefully they don't break through it again. We may have to direct reinforcements here, but we did at least manage to get somewhat of a patch up going on here, even if we've got like armored units in this terrain that's no good for armored units. So that's we just have to deal with that. The Leningrad Front is in god-awful shape, basically. We're going to have to figure out a way to make Novgorod and the area around it defensible. We did get a few reinforcements in the form of naval infantrymen brigades, and we do have a lot of rough terrain, so it's not a total lost cause, but it's pretty bad. I don't think I'm going to abandon the Narva line right yet, but I may pull some of the strongest units off it and replace them with naval infantry brigades. I think that might do well. If these guys can get closer to Novgorod in good blocking positions, then that would be a good one. We've even got units that were still on ships unloaded from the Baltic that are basically going to have to get right back into combat, and a lot of this is still Northwestern Front that we are going to have to transfer over to the Leningrad Front, just like the Aluga Op Group Army was too far south and had to be turned into a Northwestern Front Army. The Northwestern Air Command is far in the Leningrad area. I think I'm going to still just try to bring it down and get it in an actual sane area. Nice, look at this guy. Let's bring him forward. Yeah, so that's what we're going to have to do. So I've put that into about as good order as I can. I've got these rifle corps and these new armies. They were Baltic evacuees, but they're now providing leadership for these troops along this new Novgorod line and moved the strongest infantry division we've got into Novgorod, but I don't know that that'll make a huge difference given the amount of German breakthrough forces. Normally, the problem with these breakthroughs is that your flanks would be vulnerable, but we just ain't got nothing. So they're not going to have to worry about that yet. We do have this security battalion regiment thing that is possibly going to get isolated, and I've decided that that's not a big issue. We're not really defending over here. We're having to defend this line, so we'll see. And we haven't abandoned the Narva line yet, but if they move strongly into here, we may end up abandoning some or all of it, or just, holding onto Narva itself. I think these northern fronts are going to need the most reinforcement. and onto reinforcements. So I'm going to zoom out. We may have some isolated units that have come in, but mainly we've got a massive stack of reinforcements that have finally showed up around Moscow. Tons and tons of rifle divisions, and some of them are even in decent shape. So we're going to need units in the Smolensk area. We're going to need units in this basically all along the NorthWestern Front. We're going to need more units in the Leningrad area. We're going to need some units in the south of that, in the North Pripyat area, and we might even need units other places. But we'll distribute those out, and I'll do that in the reinforcements. Alright, and so that's sorted. We transferred about 7 good quality units, 6 or 7 good quality units to the Leningrad Front, and hopefully they won't die before they get off the trains. We transferred a ton of units, about 10, to the NorthWestern Front, and so hopefully they'll be in good shape. We also transferred 5 units to the Smolensk area to be divvied up as necessary, and we transferred some more units to the sort of near Pripyat area that will allow us to plug the lines, plug the gaps in our lines, and as well to maybe pull out some of these badly damaged units that are needing to be refitted and put other units in their place. We've also got more units on the way from reserves. So far, Southern Front and Southwestern Front didn't get anything, but they may in the coming turns as they are beat down. I think especially Southern Front may need some help with these lines, and we just generally need to get more guys, more divisions into the line generally, just so we can actually pull out and refit damaged units, especially the high quality armor stuff. So that's about the shape of it. We're going to go with depots, and then we're going to ship the turn.